The twins stood frozen in the doorway as lightning split the Wyoming sky. Inside, a mountain of a man rose from the shadows, rifle in hand, eyes harder than the storm raging behind them. "Your uncle's dead," Colt Brennan said, voice like gravel. "Men who want this land killed him. They'll kill you too." Sarah's breath caught. Emma gripped her sister's hand. "Unless—" He continued, stepping closer. "You let me keep you alive." Thunder shook the walls. Their inheritance had just become a death sentence. Before we continue, please subscribe and stay until the end of this story. Comment which city you're watching from so I can see how far this journey reaches. Now, let's begin. Sarah Mitchell had never held a gun until the night she pointed one at a man's chest. But that came later. First came the storm. The stagecoach lurched to a stop, throwing her against Emma. Rain hammered the roof like fists. The driver's face appeared in the window water streaming down his beard. "This is it, ladies. I ain't going no further." "But the house," Sarah started, "is a quarter-mile up that rise. You can walk it." He was already climbing down, yanking their trunks from the boot. "I'm turning back before the creek floods. You can't just leave us here." He dumped the last trunk in the mud. "Your uncle paid for delivery to the property line. This is it." He swung back onto the driver's seat. "Good luck to you both." The stagecoach disappeared into the darkness. Emma's voice shook. "Sarah, what do we walk." Sarah grabbed the smallest trunk. "Come on." The wind tried to rip her hat away. Rain soaked through her traveling coat in seconds. Emma stumbled beside her, gasping. The path, if you could call it that, was more mud than road. Sarah's boots sank with each step. Her arms screamed. The trunk weighed nothing in Boston. Out here it felt like iron. Lightning revealed a structure ahead. Dark, square, lights in the windows. "There!" Sarah shouted over the wind. They ran, slipping, falling, dragging themselves forward. Sarah's hands were numb. Her teeth chattered so hard she thought they'd crack. Emma was crying, she realized. Or maybe that was just rain on her sister's face. The porch appeared. 4 wooden steps. Sarah hauled herself up, Emma right behind her. They collapsed against the door, gasping. Sarah raised her fist to knock. The door swung open before she could. The man who filled the doorway made her forget how to breathe. He was enormous. Not fat, just built on a scale that didn't seem human. Shoulders that blocked the light behind him. Hands that could probably snap her wrist without trying. His face was all hard angles and old violence, with a scar running temple to jaw like someone had tried to carve him apart and failed. He held a rifle, not pointed at them, just held, ready. "You're the Mitchell girls," he said. Sarah found her voice. "We are, and you are, Colt Brennan. Your uncle hired me to run this place." He stepped back. "Get inside before you freeze to death." They stumbled in. Heat hit Sarah's face, a fireplace-blessed warmth. She stood there dripping, trying to process. The room was spare. Table, chairs, shelves lined with weapons. This wasn't a home. This was a garrison. Colt closed the door, shot the bolt, turned to face them. "Your uncle's dead," he said. "I suppose they told you that much." The telegram said fever. The telegram lied. He crossed to a cabinet, pulled out a bottle. "Jacob was shot 3 weeks ago. Back shot like a dog. Doc Morrison wrote fever on the certificate because Jacob's lawyer paid him to keep it quiet until you girls could get here." The room tilted. Sarah reached for the table. "Sit." Colt poured amber liquid into 2 glasses, shoved them across. "Drink." Sarah obeyed. The whiskey burned. Her eyes watered. But her head cleared. "Who killed him?" she managed. "Take your pick. 50 men in this territory want this land. Your uncle wouldn't sell, so somebody decided to solve the problem permanent." Emma's voice was tiny. "Why didn't he sell?" "Because Jacob Mitchell didn't bend for anyone." Colt leaned against the mantel firelight, turning his face to leather and shadow. He built this place with his hands, fought rustlers, raiders, the Sioux when they still had teeth. He wasn't about to hand it to Marcus Dalton because the bastard wanted it. Marcus Dalton. Sarah forced her brain to work. Biggest cattle baron in Wyoming. Owns half the territory. Wants to own the rest. Colt's jaw worked. Made Jacob an offer 6 months back. When your uncle said no, things got ugly. Cattle vanished. Fences got cut. 3 hands quit. Said they didn't want to be around when the killing started. But you stayed. His eyes met hers, gray as winter stone. Jacob saved my life once. I owed him. The past tense hung there. So, we inherited a death trap, Sarah said flatly. That's about right. Colt straightened. You've got 2 choices. Sell to Dalton, for whatever scraps he offers, run back to Boston, forget Wyoming exists. Or stay and fight. Fight. Emma's voice cracked. We're school teachers. Then you'd better learn fast. Colt's stare swept over them both. Because Dalton's men will come sniffing around by sunrise. They'll test you, push, see if you break easy. Sarah's hands trembled. She gripped the glass harder. If we stay, if we fight, what does that look like? You give me complete authority. What I say goes. No arguments, no hesitation. I run the men, the stock, security, everything. You 2 do exactly what I tell you when I tell you how I tell you. His voice was flat iron. You learn to ride shoot spot trouble before it kills you. You learn to read weather and read men. You learn that out here pretty manners won't save your life. Obedience will. That's quite a lot of trust to put in a stranger, Sarah said carefully. It is, but I'm all that's standing between you and a shallow grave. No apology, no softness. Jacob trusted me with his life for 5 years. Now you decide if you will too. Emma looked at Sarah, terror in her eyes. Question. Sarah thought of Boston, the boarding house, the endless parade of other people's children while their own dreams died slow. She thought of their father 8 months dead. Thought of Jacob Mitchell, the uncle they'd never met, who'd remembered them when no one else had. She thought of the whiskey burning in her throat and the man with the winter eyes who'd stayed when everyone else ran. We stay, she said. Something shifted in Colt's face. All right. Rules. First, you do what I tell you when I tell you, no questions. Hesitation kills. Second, you don't go anywhere alone. Not to the barn, not the well, not 10 feet from this house. Third, if shooting starts, you hit the ground and stay there till I come for you. Understood? Understood. Good. Bedrooms are back there. Bolts on the doors, use them. I'll be out here. You're not sleeping, Sarah asked. Someone needs to watch the approaches. I don't trust anyone else with your lives. He turned back to the window. Dismissed. Sarah guided Emma down the dark hall. The bedroom was simple. 2 beds, washstand hooks for clothes, clean quilts, solid walls. It would do. Emma collapsed onto the nearest bed, shoulders shaking. Sarah pulled her close. We made a terrible mistake, Emma whispered. We should have stayed. Boston was killing us slow. At least here we have a chance. At what? Getting shot? At living. Sarah gripped Emma's shoulders. Uncle Jacob built something here. He thought we were strong enough to keep it. I won't prove him wrong. Emma's tears slowed. You trust him? Colt? Sarah thought of gray eyes and controlled violence and the rifle held with practiced ease. Uncle Jacob did. That'll have to be enough. They lay down fully dressed, too exhausted to move. Sarah stared at the ceiling listening to the storm and Emma's breathing even into sleep. When she finally drifted off, she dreamed of shadows with guns and a winter-eyed man standing between her and the dark. Dawn came like a slap. Sarah woke to voices outside, men's voices, loud, angry. She bolted upright. Emma was already at the window, face pressed to the glass. Sarah, there are people. Get away from the window. Sarah yanked her back. Now. They crept to the door, opened it a crack. The main room was empty. The front door stood open. Beyond it, Colt's voice hard and cold. I said no. I'm just asking to see them. Another voice, younger, mean. Boss wants to know if the Mitchell girls are real or just another one of Jacob's lies. They're real. They're here. And they're not seeing anyone till they're ready. That's so. Well, maybe we should. The sound of a rifle cocking. Sharp. Final. Maybe you should ride back to Dalton and tell him the answer's the same as it was for Jacob. No sale. No visitors. No negotiation. Now get off this land before I start considering you trespassers. Silence. Then hoofbeats. Fading. Colt came back inside, shut the door. Saw them watching from the hallway. Get dressed. We've got work. 10 minutes later, they stood in the main room. Colt had coffee going bacon in the skillet. He didn't speak while they ate, just watched them with those winter eyes. Finally, Sarah couldn't stand it. Who was that? Dalton's foreman. Testing defenses. Colt stood. Get your coats. Time for lesson 1. Outside, the storm had scrubbed the world clean. Sky so blue it hurt. Land rolling away in impossible distances. 3 horses waited in the corral already saddled. First thing you need to know, Colt said. You can't run a ranch if you can't ride. These are the gentlest animals we've got. You're learning today. Emma went pale. I've never... Then today you start. No sympathy, just fact. Miss Sarah, you first. The horse was enormous up close. Sarah's hands shook as she gripped the saddle horn. Left foot in the stirrup, Colt said. Pull yourself up. Swing your right leg over. She tried. Her boot slipped. She fell back, gasping. Again. She tried again. Failed again. I can't. You can. Stop thinking. Just move. His voice was flat. Out here thinking gets you killed. Your body knows what to do. Let it. The third time something clicked. She was up. In the saddle. The world looked different from up here. Good. Now hold the reins like this. Heels down, back straight. When you want to turn, gentle pressure on the neck. When you want to stop, pull back easy. Don't yank, don't kick. The horse isn't stupid. Treat it like a partner, not a machine. For the next 2 hours, Sarah learned what real pain was. She fell, got up, fell again. Her thighs screamed. Her back felt broken. Emma cried every time she hit the ground, but Colt made her get back up. Again, he said. Every time. No exceptions. You're going to hurt tomorrow anyway. Earn it. By noon, Sarah could manage a trot without falling off. Emma could stay mounted at a walk. Progress. Painful, humiliating progress. That's enough, Colt finally said. Cool them down. Water them, then get inside. Sarah slid from the saddle. Her legs barely held her. She led the horse in circles, muscles quivering. You did good, Colt said quietly. Just to her. Better than most would. Something warm spread in her chest. Stupid to care about his approval. But she did. Thank you for... Don't thank me yet. We're not done. He turned toward the house. Get the horses settled. Then come inside. We're about to have company. How do you know? He pointed south. Dust cloud on the horizon. 3 riders. Coming fast, but not running. That's the approach of men who think they own the place, Colt said. His hand dropped to his gun. Casual, practiced. Get inside, both of you. Stay away from the windows. But, Rule 1, no arguments. His eyes were iron. Move. They moved. Sarah positioned herself where she could see through a gap in the curtains. Emma huddled beside her, breathing too fast. The riders came up the rise at a measured pace. The lead man rode a blood-bay stallion that probably cost more than their father's house. He was 50-something, thick through the chest, silver mustache, expensive clothes gone dusty. His 2 companions were younger, harder. The kind of men who looked like they knew 100 ways to hurt someone. They stopped 20 feet from where Colt stood waiting. "Brennan." The older man's voice carried easy, smooth. "Heard Jacob's nieces finally showed up." "They did. I'd like to pay my respects. Jacob was a neighbor after all." "Jacob was the man whose land you wanted. Now he's conveniently dead. Funny timing." The man's smile never flickered, but something cold moved behind his eyes. "Careful, Brennan. You're upset about losing your employer, I understand, but accusations are dangerous. So are backshooters. I'm going to pretend you didn't say that." The man leaned forward. "Are the Mitchell girls here? I'd like to speak with them." "They're not receiving visitors." "I'm not a visitor. I'm Marcus Dalton. I own every ranch within 50 miles of here except this one. That makes me the closest thing to authority in this valley." His voice hardened. "Now bring them out." "No." One of the younger men shifted in his saddle, hand drifting toward his belt. Colt's gun was in his hand before Sarah's next heartbeat. She didn't even see him draw. "Try it," Colt said quietly. "See what happens." The young man froze. Dalton raised a hand. "Easy, boys. No need for dramatics." He smiled again, cold. "Brennan, you're putting yourself in a difficult position. These girls are school teachers from Boston. They know nothing about ranching, about this land, about the dangers they face. I'm offering them a way out. They're not interested. You don't speak for them." "Actually," Sarah said, stepping onto the porch, "he does." Emma gasped. Colt's jaw clenched. But Sarah kept walking until she stood beside him. Dalton's eyes swept over her, assessing. "Miss Mitchell, I presume?" "I am. You must be the man who's been threatening us." His eyebrows lifted. "Threatening? I'm here to make you an offer. A generous offer. $20,000 for this property and all stock. That's more money than this land is worth." Sarah crossed her arms. "This ranch is valued at $100,000, Mr. Dalton. The lawyer's assessment was very thorough, so your offer isn't generous. It's an insult." Something flickered across Dalton's face. Surprise, then calculation. "The lawyer told you that, did he? Interesting. Did he also tell you about the accidents that happen out here? Fires, falls, rattlesnakes in the wrong place. Terrible things can happen to people who don't know what they're doing." "Are you threatening me, Mr. Dalton?" "I'm educating you. Your uncle was stubborn. It got him killed. I'd hate to see two young women suffer the same fate." He straightened in his saddle. "Think about my offer. I'll be back tomorrow for your answer." "Don't bother," Sarah said. "The answer is no." Dalton's smile died. "You're making a mistake." "That's my right. Rights don't mean much out here, Miss Mitchell. Power does, and you have none." He gathered his reins. "Brennan, you're welcome to come work for me when these girls run home crying. I pay my foreman well." "Not interested." "You will be." Dalton turned his horse. 24 hours, Miss Mitchell. Think carefully." He cantered away, his men following. Sarah stood there, heart hammering, until they disappeared. Then her legs went to water. She grabbed the porch railing. Colt's hand steadied her elbow. "That was stupid. That was necessary. You could have gotten yourself killed. He wasn't going to shoot me in front of witnesses. Not yet." Sarah turned to face him. "But he needed to see we're not afraid." "You should be afraid. You should be terrified." His grip tightened. "Dalton just declared war. You understand that this isn't some game where you can—" "I understand perfectly." She pulled free. "My uncle died defending this land. I won't dishonor his memory by running the first time someone threatens us." Colt stared at her. Something shifted in his expression. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met or the most foolish. Can't I be both?" The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Get inside. We need to talk strategy." Emma was pressed against the wall, shaking. "Sarah, what were you thinking?" "I was thinking that men like Dalton respect strength, not fear." Sarah took her hands. "We show him we're weak, he'll crush us. But if we stand firm—" We might get shot. We might. Sarah met her sister's eyes. Or we might build something here. Something ours. Something worth fighting for. Is it worth dying for? Sarah looked out at the land, rolling away to the horizon. Their land now, their legacy. Yes, she said, I think it might be. Colt gathered them at the table, spread out a hand-drawn map. This is the ranch, 12,000 acres. River runs through here, that's the water rights Dalton wants most. Cattle graze the northern range in summer, come down for winter. We run about 800 head right now. His finger traced lines. Should be 1,000, but we lost stock last month. Rustling. Dalton? Emma asked. Probably. Can't prove it. That's how he works. Pressure, attrition, making life hard until you give up. Colt's jaw set. But that changes now. We're going to fortify. How? Sarah leaned forward. First, we bring in more men. 5, maybe 6 good hands. Men who can handle themselves in a fight. Second, we set up watch rotations. 24 hours. No blind spots. Third, we move the cattle closer to the main buildings where we can protect them. He looked up. And fourth, you two learn to shoot. Emma made a small sound. Can't be helped, Colt said. Out here, everyone needs to know how to defend themselves, including women. When do we start? Sarah asked. Now. He stood. Get your coats. Behind the barn, Colt had set up targets. Old bottles on fence posts, tin cans lined up on a stump. He handed Sarah a revolver, lighter than she expected, warm from his hand. This is a Colt 45, 6 shots. It kicks like a mule, so brace yourself. You're going to hold it with both hands until you get stronger. He positioned himself behind her, adjusting her grip. Feet shoulder width, knees bent, lean into it. When you pull the trigger, it's going to jump. Let it. Don't fight it. His breath was warm against her ear. Sarah's pulse jumped for reasons that had nothing to do with the gun. See that bottle? He said. Aim for it. Breathe out. Squeeze the trigger gentle. Don't yank. She tried. The gun roared. Her arms jerked up. The bullet went nowhere near the bottle. Again. She tried again. Missed again. You're tensing up. Relax. I'm holding a weapon that could kill someone. How am I supposed to relax? By understanding that someday you might need to kill someone to save your life, or your sister's, or mine. His voice was quiet, serious. This isn't a game, Sarah. When Dalton's men come, and they will come, you need to be ready. So try again. She did. 5 more times. 6. On the 7th shot, the bottle exploded. Joy surged through her. I did it? You did. Colt's hand squeezed her shoulder. Brief. Warm. Now do it again. By the time the sun started sinking, Sarah had hit 6 targets. Emma had managed 2. Both their hands ached. Both their ears rang. But they could shoot. That's enough for today, Colt said. Go wash up. I'll make dinner. Inside, Sarah's hands shook as she poured water into the basin. Not from fear, from something else, something she couldn't name. Emma appeared beside her. Sarah, what are we doing? Learning to survive. No, I mean... Emma's voice dropped. You and Colt, the way you look at him, the way he looks at you. I don't know what you... Don't lie to me, I'm your twin. I see everything. Emma touched her arm. Just be careful. We don't know him. Not really. I know enough, Sarah said. But her sister was right. She felt it too. That pull. That dangerous current running between her and the winter-eyed man who'd promised to keep them alive. Dinner was salt pork and beans. Simple. Hot. They ate in silence, exhaustion settling over them like a blanket. Finally, Colt spoke. Tomorrow we start building fortifications, reinforcing doors, adding shutters to the windows. After that, we drill defensive positions. You'll know every corner of this property, every approach, every escape route. He met Sarah's eyes across the table. It's going to be hard. Harder than today. But if you want to keep this land, you're going to have to fight for it. We understand, Sarah said. Do you? Because fighting doesn't just mean shooting. It means watching men die. Maybe killing them yourself. It means blood and fire and choices that'll haunt you. His voice was raw. I've killed 17 men. I remember every face, every name. You ready for that weight? The room went quiet. Sarah thought of Boston, of teaching primers to children who forgot her name by summer, of nights wondering if this was all life held, of her father's funeral standing in the rain, thinking there had to be more than this slow death. Yes, she said, I'm ready. Colt studied her for a long moment, then nodded. All right then, get some rest. Tomorrow we start building your fortress. That night, Sarah lay awake listening to Emma breathe, thinking of Colt outside keeping watch, thinking of Dalton's cold smile, thinking of the gun's kick against her palms and the bottle exploding in a spray of glass. She thought of her Uncle Jacob, who'd built this place with his hands and defended it with his life, and she thought, I'm going to make you proud. She fell asleep with that promise on her lips and woke to Emma shaking her shoulder. Sarah, wake up. What? There's smoke. I smell smoke. Sarah bolted upright, sniffed. Yes, there. Faint, but growing. They ran to the main room. Empty. The front door stood open. Outside, the eastern sky glowed orange. The barn, Emma whispered. They heard the gunshot. Then Colt's voice roaring into the darkness. Get back in the house, now! Sarah grabbed Emma's hand. They ran for the door. Behind them, flames licked at the night sky. The war had begun. Sarah's lungs burned as she dragged Emma through the doorway. Colt was already there, slamming the door behind them, shooting the bolt home. Stay down, he said, not loud, absolutely calm, like the world wasn't on fire outside. The barn, Sarah started, is a loss. They want us focused on the fire while they hit the house. He moved to the window, rifle in hand. How many did you see? I didn't. Think. Close your eyes. Picture it. How many shapes in the firelight? Sarah closed her eyes, saw the orange glow, the shadows moving. 3, maybe 4. 4 it is. Colt checked the rifle's load. They'll try the back door first. When I shoot, they'll scatter. That's when they'll test the windows. Emma, get away from there. Emma was pressed against the far wall, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Sarah crawled to her, pulled her close. We're going to be fine, Sarah whispered. Lying. Praying it wasn't a lie. Wood splintered. The back door. Colt fired. The rifle's roar filled the room. Cordite stung Sarah's nose. A man screamed. Not a shout. A scream. The sound of a body hitting the ground. One down, Colt said, still calm, reloading. 3 to go. Glass shattered. The window to Sarah's left exploded inward. A hand reached through, fumbling for the latch. Sarah didn't think. She grabbed the iron poker from beside the fireplace and swung. Bone crunched. The hand jerked back. A man cursed, stumbling away. Good, Colt said. Like she'd done something ordinary. Now get back down. More gunfire. Outside now, multiple shooters. Bullets punched through the door, splintered wood chewed holes in the walls. Emma screamed. Sarah covered her with her own body. Then silence. Colt waited. Sarah counted her heartbeats. 20. 30. 50. They're pulling back, Colt finally said. Regrouping or retreating. Can't tell which. He moved to the shattered window, peered out. Fire spreading to the hay storage. We're going to lose it all. Can we stop it? Sarah asked. Not without exposing ourselves to gunfire, and that's what they want." He turned to face them. Blood ran down his left arm. Dark, steady. "They'll be back. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. But they'll be back." This was just the opening move. Sarah stared at the blood. "You're hurt." "Grazed. Nothing vital." He grabbed a cloth, wrapped it tight around his bicep. "Emma, you hurt." Emma shook her head, couldn't speak. "Sarah?" "I'm fine." She wasn't. Her hands shook. Her stomach churned. But she was alive. That counted as fine. "All right." Colt moved toward the back of the house. "I need to check the perimeter. Make sure they're really gone. You two stay inside. Door stays bolted. Anyone tries to come in besides me, you shoot them. Understand?" "Yes." He stopped at the door, looked back. "Sarah, you did good with that poker. Real good." Then he was gone. Sarah sat on the floor. Emma collapsed against her. Outside, flames painted the walls orange. The barn groaned, timbers giving way. Somewhere in the darkness, a man was probably dying from Colt's bullet. She'd just hit someone with an iron poker. Felt bones break under the metal. And all she felt was relief that he hadn't gotten inside. What was happening to her? Emma's voice, small. "I want to go home." "We are home." "No. Boston. I want to go back to Boston, where people don't shoot at us, where barns don't burn, where we don't have to—" Her voice broke. "Sarah, I can't do this." Sarah held her tighter. "Yes, you can, because we don't have a choice." "We do. We can sell, take whatever Dalton offers and leave. And go back to teaching other people's children. Back to that boarding house where Mrs. Henderson waters down the soup and the roof leaks when it rains." Sarah pulled back, gripped Emma's shoulders. "This is ours. This land. This house. This chance at something bigger than ourselves. I won't give it up because some bully thinks he can scare us. He's not trying to scare us. He's trying to kill us. Then we kill him first." Emma stared at her. "You don't mean that." Did she? Sarah didn't know. An hour ago she would have said no. But she'd felt that poker connect with flesh and bone. Heard that man scream. And her only thought had been good. "I mean," Sarah said slowly, "that I'll do whatever it takes to protect us. Whatever it takes to keep what's ours." The door opened. Both of them jumped. But it was Colt, covered in ash and sweat. "They're gone," he said. "Left 2 men behind. 1 dead, one wishing he was. I tied up the live one in the root cellar. We'll question him come morning." He looked at them both. "You two need to sleep. Tomorrow's going to be worse." "Worse than this," Emma whispered. "Much worse. This was Dalton telling us he's serious. Tomorrow he'll make his real offer, and it won't be money." Colt moved to the cabinet, pulled out fresh bandages, started wrapping his arm properly. "We've got maybe 12 hours before he comes back with more men. We need to use that time smart." Sarah stood. Her legs were steadier than she expected. "What do? We send for help. I've got friends, men who fought with me in the Apache campaigns. They owe me. Problem is, they're scattered across 3 territories. Even riding hard, it'll take days to reach them, and days more for them to get here." He tied off the bandage. "We need to hold out at least a week, maybe 2. "How do we do that with 3 people?" Sarah asked. "We don't. We hire more hands." Colt moved to the table, started loading weapons. "Come sunrise, I'm riding into town, posting notice that we're paying double wages for anyone willing to work through trouble. I'll get us 5, maybe 6 men. Won't be saints, but they'll be bodies with guns." "You can't go alone," Sarah said. "What if Dalton has men waiting in town?" "He will, but I'll handle it." Colt didn't look up from the guns. "You two stay here. Keep the doors bolted. Anyone comes, you shoot first and ask questions later." "No." His hand stopped. "Excuse me." I said no, you're not going alone. Sarah crossed her arms. Emma stays here. You and I go to town together. Sarah? Emma started. You're safer here with the door bolted than I am riding with him, and Colt needs backup. Sarah met his eyes. You said it yourself. Hesitation kills. Well, splitting up is hesitating. We go together, or we don't go at all. Colt studied her, long and hard. You might get killed in town. I might get killed here. At least in town I'll be moving. Something that might have been respect flickered across his face. All right. But you do exactly what I say. No heroics. No stupid risks. You stay close, stay quiet, and if shooting starts, you get behind me and stay there. Deal? Deal. Emma grabbed Sarah's hand. Please don't go. I have to. We need those men. Sarah kissed her sister's forehead. Bolt the door behind us. Don't open it for anyone but Colt or me. And Emma, if someone tries to break in, I shoot them. I know. Emma's voice was hollow. Just come back. I will, I promise. It was a promise Sarah hoped she could keep. Dawn came cold and gray. The barn was a smoking ruin. The hay storage gone. 2 horses dead, 3 more spooked and scattered. The damage was worse in daylight. Colt saddled 2 horses that had been in the far corral away from the fire. Sarah changed into riding clothes, split-skirt sturdy boots jacket that had belonged to her uncle. Everything smelled like smoke. You know how to shoot from horseback? Colt asked, handing her a rifle. I can barely shoot from the ground. Then don't try unless you have to. Just hold on to it. Looking armed is half the battle. He swung into his saddle. Stay close. If I signal, you stop. If I run, you run. If I tell you to do something, you do it without thinking. Clear. Clear. They rode out as the sun broke over the mountains. The land looked different now. Not beautiful. Dangerous. Every rise could hide an ambush. Every stand of trees a threat. Colt rode like he was part of the horse. Fluid. Alert. His eyes never stopped moving. How far to town? Sarah asked. 12 miles. We should make it by noon if we don't run into trouble. And if we do, then we find out if you can shoot from a running horse after all. They rode in silence for an hour. 2. Sarah's thighs ached from yesterday's practice, but she gritted her teeth and kept up. She wouldn't give Colt a reason to regret bringing her. The town appeared gradually, first a few scattered buildings, then a proper main street. False fronts and hitching posts. A saloon, a general store, a building with Marshall painted on the door. Maybe 30 structures total. Colt reined in at the edge of town. Listen, Dalton owns the Marshall. Probably owns half the businesses too. We're not here to make friends or fight battles. We're here to hire hands and get out. You understand? Yes. Stay close. Don't talk unless I tell you to. And Sarah. His voice dropped. If this goes bad, you ride. Don't wait for me. Don't try to help. You ride hard back to Emma and you barricade that house. Promise me. I'm not leaving you. Promise me. She met his eyes, saw the steel there, the absolute certainty that he'd die to buy her time to escape. I promise. Lie. But he seemed to accept it. They rode down the main street. People stopped to stare. 2 riders, dusty and armed. News traveled fast out here. They probably already knew about the fire. Colt stopped at the saloon, dismounted. Sarah followed. Inside, the air was thick with tobacco and yesterday's whiskey. A dozen men scattered around tables, cards, and coins in front of them. All of them looked up when Colt entered. The room went quiet. Brennan, the bartender said. Not friendly, not hostile. Careful. Heard you had trouble last night. Heard right. Colt moved to the bar. I'm hiring. Double wages for ranch work through the end of the month. Looking for men who can ride and shoot and don't run when things get rough. Rough like your barn burning down? Someone called from the back. Laughter. Colt ignored it. Anyone interested, see me outside in 10 minutes. Cash up front for the first week." He turned to leave. Sarah followed, but a man stepped into their path. Big, scarred, smelling like he hadn't bathed in a month. "Heard the Mitchell girls were pretty," he said, staring at Sarah. "Heard right about that, too." "Move," Colt said. "Quiet. Dangerous." "What's your hurry?" "I'm just being friendly." The man grinned, showing broken teeth. "Maybe the lady wants a drink. Maybe she wants to hear about better employment opportunities." "I said move." The man's hand dropped toward his gun. Colt was faster. His fist caught the man's throat, hard, precise. The man gagged, stumbled back, hands clutching his neck. "Anyone else?" Colt asked the room. Silence. "Good. 10 minutes. Outside." They walked out into the sunlight. Sarah's heart hammered so hard she thought everyone could hear it. "You all right?" Colt asked without looking at her. "Fine." "You're lying, but we'll pretend you're not." He leaned against the hitching post. "That's how it's going to be in there. Men testing you, testing me, trying to see if we're weak enough to break. Don't show fear. Don't show anger. Just show them you're made of iron." "I don't feel like iron." "Good thing feelings don't matter. Only what you show." He glanced down the street. "Here they come." 4 men approached. Young mostly, hard-looking. The kind who'd seen trouble and survived it. Colt questioned each one. Where they'd worked before. What they could do. Why they wanted the job. 2 he sent away immediately. The other 2 he nodded at. "You're hired. Names: Jack Cooper. Tom Reeves." "Good. You know the Mitchell Ranch." "Everyone knows it," Jack said. "Also know it's got trouble." "That's why the pay's double. You good with trouble?" Jack grinned. "Trouble and me are old friends." "Then we'll get along fine. You ride out today. Report to Miss Mitchell." He gestured at Sarah and her sister. "I'm foreman. What I say goes. You steal, you're gone. You run when shooting starts, you're gone. You disrespect the Mitchell women in any way, I'll kill you myself. Clear?" Both men nodded. "Good. There's an advance waiting at the ranch. Now get your gear. We leave in an hour." They walked away. Colt turned back to the saloon. 2 isn't enough. I need at least 3 more. "Brennan." They turned. A man stood in the street. 50-ish. Marshall's star on his chest. Bought and paid for by Dalton, probably. "Marshall," Colt said. "Neutral. Heard you had a fire last night. That's terrible luck." "Wasn't luck. It was arson. I've got a man in my root cellar who can testify to it." The marshal's expression didn't change. "Well, now that's a serious accusation. Maybe you should bring him in. Let the law handle it." "The law?" Colt's voice was flat. "You mean Dalton's law?" "I don't know what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating fact. Dalton tried to buy the Mitchell Ranch. When they refused, he sent men to burn them out. One of those men is dead. Another's tied up and ready to talk. You want to arrest someone? Marshal, start with Marcus Dalton." The marshal's jaw tightened. "You're making accusations you can't prove." "Can't I?" "The man I caught was wearing Dalton's brand on his belt buckle. Funny coincidence." People were gathering now. Listening. The marshal looked around, aware of the audience. "I'll ride out this afternoon. Investigate properly. You do that. And while you're at it, investigate who shot Jacob Mitchell in the back 3 weeks ago. I'm sure you'll find that very interesting." The marshal's face went red. "Are you accusing me of—" "I'm not accusing you of anything. Yet." Colt took Sarah's elbow. "Come on, we're done here." They walked toward the horses. Behind them, the marshal called out, "You're playing a dangerous game, Brennan." Colt didn't turn around, just kept walking. But Sarah felt the tension in his grip, the barely controlled violence. "That was stupid," she said quietly. "Wasn't it?" "Probably. But sometimes you have to draw lines." He helped her mount. "The marshal's corrupt, but he's not stupid. Public accusation like that, he has to be careful. Can't just ignore it without looking guilty." So what does he do? He tells Dalton we're not backing down, and Dalton escalates. Colt swung into his saddle. Which is fine. I want him angry. Angry men make mistakes. They rode back down the main street. Sarah felt eyes following them. Some curious, some hostile, some calculating. At the edge of town, 3 more riders approached. Older than Jack and Tom, harder looking. One of them raised a hand. "Brennan, heard you're hiring." Colt reined in. "Who told you?" "Word travels. We were passing through. Figured we'd check it out." The man's eyes were shrewd. "Name's Dutch Carver. These are my boys Pete and Samuel. We're good with horses, good with guns, and we don't run easy. That worth double wages." "Depends. Why are you really here?" Dutch grinned. "Because we owe Marcus Dalton money, and he's not the forgiving type. Figured working for his enemy might cancel the debt. That honest enough for you?" Colt studied them, long and hard. "You're not going to sell us out." "Not unless Dalton pays us triple, and he's too cheap for that." Dutch leaned forward in his saddle. "Look, we're not saints, but we're also not stupid. Dalton's squeezing everyone from here to Cheyenne. About time someone pushed back. Might as well get paid for it." "All right, you're hired. Same rules as the others. You ride out today, report to the Mitchell Ranch, follow orders, respect the women. Break any of those rules and you're gone. Maybe dead. Clear." Crystal, 5 men. Not an army, but better than 3. Colt gathered them all outside town, laid out the situation. The fire. Dalton's threats. The likelihood of more attacks. "Anyone wants to back out, do it now," he said. "No shame in it. This is going to get ugly." No one moved. "Good. Then let's ride. Stay alert. If we get ambushed on the way back, you fight like hell. The Mitchell women are depending on us." They rode hard. Sarah kept expecting bullets, kept scanning the horizon for dust clouds, but the journey was quiet. Too quiet. "I don't like this," Colt muttered. "Should have hit us by now." "Maybe they're waiting for us to reach the ranch," Sarah said. "Maybe." They crested the final rise. The ranch appeared below, still standing. No smoke, no fire. Relief flooded through Sarah. "It's all right. Emma's all right." They galloped down. Sarah was off her horse before it stopped running for the door. "Emma! Emma! Open up! It's me!" Silence. Sarah's blood went cold. "Emma!" Colt was beside her, gun drawn. He tested the door, locked from inside. "Emma Mitchell, if you can hear me, say something." "Nothing." "She might be hiding," Sarah said, voice shaking. "Might be too scared to answer. Or she might not be able to answer." Colt stepped back. "Stand clear." He kicked the door. Once, twice. The bolt held. "Help me," he said to Dutch and the others. "On 3. They hit it together. The door exploded inward. The house was empty. Furniture overturned. Lamp shattered on the floor. Signs of struggle. "Emma!" Sarah ran through the rooms. Bedroom, empty. Kitchen, empty. "Emma, where are you?" Colt picked up something from the floor. A piece of paper. His face went white. "What?" Sarah demanded. "What is it?" He handed it to her. The handwriting was neat, educated, calm. "Miss Mitchell, your sister is safe. For now. Come to my ranch tomorrow at noon. Alone. Unarmed. We'll discuss terms. Bring your foreman or any of those hired guns and I'll send your sister back in pieces. M. Dalton." Sarah's legs gave out. She hit the floor paper clutched in her hands. Emma. They had Emma. Colt knelt beside her. "Sarah, listen to me. We're going to get her back. He has her. Dalton has her." "I know. But he won't hurt her. Not yet. She's his leverage." Colt's hands gripped her shoulders. "You hear me. He needs her alive to control you, That gives us time." "Time for what?" "He said come alone, or he'll—" She couldn't finish. Couldn't say the words. "He's lying. He wants you alone so he can force you to sign over the ranch. Once you do that, he'll kill both of you. Make it look like an accident." Colt's voice was hard, certain. "We're not playing his game. We're playing ours. How he has Emma. He holds all the cards." "No. He thinks he does. But he made a mistake." Colt stood, pulled Sarah to her feet. "He took Emma from here, which means he had to transport her 12 miles to his ranch, which means he used a specific route, which means we can track them. And then what? Storm his ranch with 6 men against his entire outfit? If we have to, yes." Colt's eyes were winter iron. "But I'm hoping we're smarter than that. Dutch, you and the boys secure this house. I want defenses up by nightfall. Jack, Tom, you ride to the line camps. Gather any hands still loyal to the Mitchell name. Tell them what happened. Tell them we're going to war." "And us?" Sarah asked. "We're going to get your sister back." Colt grabbed his rifle. "And we're going to make Marcus Dalton wish he'd never heard the name Mitchell." Sarah felt something shift inside her. The fear was still there. But underneath it, something harder, colder. They'd taken her sister, her twin, the only family she had left. She picked up the revolver Colt had taught her to shoot. Checked the cylinder. 6 bullets. It would have to be enough. "Let's go," she said. Colt studied her face. "You sure you're ready for this?" Sarah thought of Emma terrified and alone. Thought of Dalton's cold smile. Thought of everything her uncle had built and died defending. "No," she said. "But I'm going anyway." "Good answer." Colt opened the door. "Then let's go teach Marcus Dalton what happens when you take something that belongs to a Mitchell woman." They rode into the sunset. Behind them, the hired guns fortified the house. Ahead, somewhere in the darkness, Emma waited. Sarah didn't know if they'd find her alive. Didn't know if they'd survive what came next. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was done being afraid. The tracks were easy to follow in the fading light. 4 horses moving fast but not running. Confident, like men who knew no one would chase them. Colt rode ahead, reading the ground like some men read books. Sarah stayed close, her hand never far from the revolver at her hip. "They took the southern route," Colt said without looking back. "Through the canyon pass. Smart. Only one way in, one way out. Easy to defend if someone follows." "Are they expecting us to follow?" "No, they think you'll wait for the meeting tomorrow like a good girl." He glanced back at her. "That's their first mistake." "What's their second?" "Thinking I'd let you go alone." His jaw set. "I've seen what Dalton does to people who cross him. Your sister isn't safe just because she's a woman. Out here, that doesn't mean much." Fear clawed at Sarah's throat. She pushed it down. "How far to his ranch?" 10 miles, maybe 12. But we're not going to his ranch, not yet." Colt reined in, studied the ground. "They stopped here. See, the horses shifted, milled around. Someone got down." Sarah dismounted, knelt beside him. The earth told stories she was only beginning to understand. Hoofprints, bootprints, and something else. "What's that?" She pointed to a small depression in the dirt. Colt's face went hard. "Knee print. Someone was on their knees here." He stood, scanned the area. "There, fabric on that bush." He walked over, pulled free a scrap of blue cloth. Emma's dress. Sarah's hands shook as she took it. "She was here. She's alive. For now." Colt's voice was grim. "But they roughed her up, made her kneel. That's a power play, breaking her spirit before they even reach Dalton. I'll kill them." The words came out flat, cold. Sarah barely recognized her own voice. "I'll kill every man who touched her." Colt studied her. "You mean that?" "Yes." "Good. You're going to need that anger." He mounted again. Come on, we're burning moonlight. They rode harder now. The canyon walls rose on either side, narrow and dark. Perfect ambush country. Sarah's nerves screamed with every shadow, every sound. Easy, Colt said. They're long gone. No one's waiting here. How do you know? Because if I was them, I'd have guards posted. The fact that they don't means Dalton's arrogant, thinks he's already won. Colt's hand rested on his gun. That's his third mistake. The canyon opened into a valley. In the distance, lights flickered. A main house, outbuildings, corrals. Dalton's empire. There, Sarah breathed. There. Colt pulled his horse into a stand of cottonwoods. We wait for full dark. Then we scout. Scout. We should go in now. Get Emma and get killed in the first 30 seconds. Use your head, Sarah. Dalton's got maybe 20 men on that property. We're 2 people. We go charging in, we die. Emma dies. Everyone dies. He dismounted, tied his horse. We need information, layout, guard positions, where they're keeping her. Then we plan. Then we act. Sarah wanted to argue, wanted to run down there screaming. But Colt was right. She knew he was right. Fine, we scout. But if I see a chance to get her out, you don't take it. Not without me. His voice was steel. I know she's your sister. I know you're scared. But if you get yourself killed trying to be a hero, Emma's dead anyway. So you follow my lead. Understand? Sarah swallowed her rage. Understood. They waited. The sun dropped below the mountains. Stars came out cold and distant. Sarah's stomach churned with fear and helplessness. Tell me about Emma, Colt said quietly. What? Tell me about her. Helps to stay focused. Keeps the fear from eating you alive. Sarah stared at the distant lights. We're twins, born 3 minutes apart. I came first. Emma used to say I was bossy because I was technically older. Her throat tightened. She's always been gentle, kind, the one who saw good in everyone, even when people didn't deserve it. And you, I'm the one who saw the truth, even when I didn't want to. Sarah's hands clenched. She shouldn't be here. This was my decision, my stubbornness. If I'd just sold to Dalton like she wanted, he'd have killed you both anyway, made it look like an accident on the journey back to Boston. Cheaper than paying out $20,000. Colt's voice was matter-of-fact. You think men like Dalton honor deals? They take what they want and bury the witnesses. Then why take Emma? Why not just kill her? Because he wants the ranch legally. No questions, no territorial governor asking uncomfortable things. He forces you to sign, then arranges a tragic accident for both of you. Clean, simple, no one to dispute the deed. Colt checked his weapons. That's why we have time. He needs both of you alive long enough to make it official. It was cold comfort, but it was something. Full darkness fell. Colt stood moved like a shadow toward the ranch. Sarah followed, trying to match his silence. Every snapped twig sounded like a gunshot. Every stumble a disaster. But Colt never looked back, just moved with absolute certainty through the dark. They reached the edge of the property. Low stone wall easy to cross. Beyond it, the main house blazed with lamplight. Voices carried on the night air. Men laughing, drinking, celebrating their victory probably. Stay here, Colt whispered. I'm going closer. I'm coming with you. Sarah. I'm coming. He studied her face in the moonlight, then nodded. Stay low. Stay quiet. And if I signal, you run back to the horses. No arguments. No hesitation. Deal? Deal. They moved forward, keeping to shadows, using buildings for cover. Sarah's heart hammered so hard she thought everyone could hear it, but they reached the main house undetected. Colt peered through a window, cursed softly. What? Sarah whispered. Look. She did. Inside, men sat around a table, cards and whiskey bottles scattered across the surface, and at the head of the table, Marcus Dalton himself, smiling, relaxed, victorious. "See anyone else?" Colt asked. Sarah scanned the room. 8 men total, all armed, all dangerous looking. "No Emma," she said. "Where is she?" "Not in the main house. Too many witnesses if something goes wrong." Colt pulled back. "They'll have her somewhere secure, somewhere Dalton can control access. My guess, the old bunkhouse. It's isolated, easy to guard." "Where?" "East side, past the corrals." He moved Sarah right behind him. They crossed the yard in sprints, shadow to shadow, building to building, each movement calculated, precise. Sarah tried to breathe quiet, tried to be invisible. A man stepped out of the darkness. Sarah froze. The guard was 10 feet away, rolling a cigarette, oblivious. If he looked up, Colt was already moving. Silent as death. His arm snaked around the man's throat. A brief struggle. Then nothing. The guard went limp. "Is he?" Sarah started. "Unconscious. He'll wake up with a headache and missing time." Colt lowered the body to the ground. "Come on." They reached the old bunkhouse, dark except for a single lamp in the window. One guard outside leaning against the wall, half asleep. Colt handed Sarah his rifle. "When I move, you cover me. Anything goes wrong, you shoot. Can you do that?" Sarah's mouth was dry. "Yes." "Good girl." He drew his knife. "Don't miss." He moved like smoke. The guard never knew what hit him. One moment standing, the next crumpling. Colt caught him, eased him down, silent. Then he was at the door, testing it, locked. He turned to Sarah, mouthed, "On 3. She nodded, raised the rifle, prayed her hands wouldn't shake. Colt kicked. The door exploded inward. Sarah rushed in behind him, rifle up, ready for anything. The room was empty except for a figure huddled in the corner. "Emma." Her sister looked up, face bruised, hands bound, dress torn, but alive. Gloriously, impossibly alive. Sarah dropped the rifle, ran to her. "Are you hurt?" "Did they?" "I'm okay." Emma's voice was hoarse. "Scared. But okay." "Sarah, how did you?" "Later. We need to move." Colt cut Emma's bonds with his knife. "Can you walk?" "Yes." "Good. Stay between us. Stay quiet. We're not out yet." He moved to the door, peered out. "Clear. Let's go." They moved fast, Sarah on one side of Emma, Colt on the other, retracing their steps through the dark. They were 50 yards from the wall when someone shouted, "Hey, who's there?" Colt cursed. "Run. Now." They ran. Sarah half-dragged Emma, who stumbled on weak legs. Behind them, more shouts. A bell started ringing. The whole ranch coming alive. "The wall!" Colt shouted. "Get over it and keep running." Sarah boosted Emma over, scrambled after. Colt came last, just as gunfire erupted. Bullets chewed the stone where he'd been standing. "This way." He grabbed Sarah's arm, pulled them both toward the trees. More gunfire. A bullet whined past Sarah's ear. Emma screamed. They crashed into the cottonwood's branches, tearing at their clothes. "The horses!" Sarah gasped. "No time. They'll catch us before we can mount." Colt changed direction, heading deeper into the trees. "This way. There's a creek. We lose them in the water." They ran. Sarah's lungs burned. Her legs were jelly. Emma was crying, gasping, barely staying upright. Behind them, torches bobbed in the darkness. Men shouting, dogs barking. The creek appeared. Narrow, but fast-moving. Cold enough to steal breath. "In," Colt ordered. "Go." Sarah plunged in. Ice water hit her like a fist. Emma splashed beside her, gasping. Colt came last, pulling them downstream. They'll track us, Sarah panted. Not in the water. Not in the dark. Move. Quietly now. They waded downstream. The current fought them. Rocks tried to trip them. Sarah's teeth chattered so hard she thought they'd shatter. Beside her, Emma was turning blue. After what felt like hours, but was probably minutes, Colt pulled them toward the bank. Up, into those rocks. They climbed, wet, freezing, exhausted. Found a hollow in the rocks just big enough for 3 people. Squeezed in. Below, torches passed. Men cursing. Dogs confused by the water. The search party moved on. They waited, shivering, silent. Sarah held Emma close, trying to share warmth. Colt watched the darkness with predator eyes. Finally, the torches disappeared. They'll regroup, Colt said quietly. Come back at dawn with more men. We need to move. I can't, Emma whispered. I'm sorry, You can, because staying here means dying here. Colt's voice was gentle but firm. We've got maybe 3 hours before sunrise. That's 3 hours to put distance between us and them. Can you give me 3 hours? Emma? Emma looked at Sarah, drew strength from somewhere deep. Yes, 3 hours. Good, then let's move. They walked through the night. No horses, no supplies, just 3 people and the clothes on their backs. Colt led them through terrain that seemed impossible to navigate in darkness, but he never hesitated, never doubted. Sarah's feet were numb. Her body was numb. Only her mind stayed sharp, fueled by fear and adrenaline and rage. They'd gotten Emma back, but the cost was still being calculated. Dawn found them miles from Dalton's ranch, hidden in a rocky outcrop. Exhausted, freezing, but alive. We can't go back to our ranch, Sarah said. That's the first place they'll look. I know. Colt was scanning the horizon. We need allies, friends, somewhere Dalton can't reach. Where? The reservation, 40 miles north. Dalton won't follow us there. The Cheyenne owe me a debt. He looked at them both. But it's a hard 40 miles. And we've got no horses, no food, no water. We don't have a choice, Sarah said. No, we don't. Colt stood. Rest here for an hour, then we move. And we don't stop until we reach the reservation or we're dead. Understood. They understood. Sarah held Emma close. Her sister was shaking. From cold or fear or shock, Sarah couldn't tell. I thought I'd never see you again, Emma whispered. I know. Me too. Sarah, what they said. About what Dalton planned to do. To both of us. Emma's voice broke. We can't fight him. He's too powerful. We already are fighting him. And we're still alive. That's something. For how long? Sarah didn't have an answer. Colt did, though. He crouched beside them. As long as we keep moving, keep fighting, keep refusing to give up. His eyes were winter steel. Your uncle fought Dalton for 5 years and died undefeated. That legacy is yours now. You can honor it or abandon it. But you can't do both. Emma looked at him. You think we can win? I think we don't have to win. We just have to survive long enough for Dalton to make a mistake. And he will. Because men like him always do. They get arrogant, sloppy. And when that happens, we'll be ready. Sarah felt something shift in her chest. What are you saying? I'm saying we stop running. Stop reacting. We take the fight to Dalton. Colt's voice was hard, certain. But first we survive. First we get to safety. First we regroup. Then, he smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. Then we show Marcus Dalton what happens when you go to war with Mitchell women. They rested. Then they walked. Mile after brutal mile. The sun climbed, turning the world into a furnace. No water, no shade, just endless walking. Emma collapsed twice. Both times Colt carried her until she could walk again. Sarah's vision blurred. Her lips cracked. Her feet bled inside her boots. But they kept moving. Midday brought riders, distant but unmistakable. "Down!" Colt hissed. They pressed into the sage, trying to be invisible. The riders passed within a quarter mile. 6 men, Dalton's men, searching. When they disappeared, Colt stood. "They're spreading out, making a net. We need to move faster." "I can't," Emma gasped. "I'm sorry, I just—" "Yes, you can." Sarah gripped her sister's arm. "Because the alternative is them catching us. And you know what happens then." Emma found strength. They moved faster. Afternoon blended into evening. Sarah lost track of time, lost track of pain, just put one foot in front of the other. Again, again, again. When the reservation appeared on the horizon, she thought she was hallucinating. But Colt's face showed relief. "There, we made it." They stumbled toward the collection of lodges and rough buildings. People stared as they approached. 3 white people, battered and exhausted, appearing out of the wasteland. An older man approached, Cheyenne wearing white man's clothes, but carrying himself with absolute dignity. "Colt Brennan," he said. No surprise in his voice, just recognition. "You look like death." "Feel like it too, Joseph." Colt's voice was rough. "I need help. These women need safety. And I need to call in that debt you owe me." Joseph studied them. The Mitchell sisters. Heard about Jacob's death. Heard about Dalton's moves. His eyes were shrewd. "You're making enemies, Brennan." "Good. I like my enemies where I can see them." Colt swayed slightly. Sarah realized he was barely standing. "Please, Joseph, just for a few days. Until I can figure out the next move." Joseph looked at Sarah and Emma. Broken, bleeding, but still standing. Then he nodded. "My home is yours. Come." They followed him to a lodge. Inside, women appeared with water-food blankets. Sarah drank until her stomach cramped. Ate until she thought she'd be sick. Then collapsed onto the bedding they provided. Emma was already asleep. Colt sat by the fire talking low with Joseph. Sarah should sleep. Should rest. But her mind wouldn't stop spinning. They'd rescued Emma. But now what Dalton would never stop hunting them. The ranch was probably burned by now. Everything Jacob built, gone. "You're thinking too hard." She looked up. Colt stood over her, exhausted but alert. "How can I not think? We've lost everything. We've lost buildings, land, things." He crouched beside her. "But you're alive. Emma's alive. I'm alive. That means we can rebuild, fight back, win." "How, with what we have nothing? We have something Dalton doesn't." Colt's eyes caught the firelight. "We have the truth. We have witnesses. And we have me." He smiled. "Dangerous. And I know every dirty secret Marcus Dalton has buried, including where he hid the evidence of Jacob's murder." Sarah sat up. "What? Jacob didn't die without a fight. He left a trail, documents, witnesses, proof that Dalton's been stealing land across 3 territories for years." Colt's voice was quiet, hard. "I've been gathering evidence for months, waiting for the right moment to use it. Looks like that moment just arrived." "Why didn't you tell me this before?" "Because before you were just trying to survive. Now," he studied her face, "now you're ready to fight. I can see it. Something changed in you when they took Emma. Something hard. Something necessary." Sarah thought about the poker connecting with bone, about running through darkness with her sister's life in the balance, about wanting to kill every man who'd hurt Emma. "Yes," she said. "Something changed." "Good. Because what comes next, you're going to need that hardness, that willingness to do whatever it takes." Colt stood. "Rest now. Tomorrow we plan. And then we take everything from Marcus Dalton the way he tried to take everything from you." Sarah lay back down, closed her eyes. Beside her, Emma breathed soft and even. Safe. Alive. Across the fire, Colt kept watch, like he always did, like he always would. And for the first time since her uncle died, Sarah felt something like hope. They'd lost the first battle, but the war was far from over, and Marcus Dalton was about to learn that Mitchell women didn't break, they burned. Sarah woke to the sound of voices outside the lodge. Low, urgent. She sat up, every muscle screaming protest. Emma still slept, face peaceful for the first time in days. Sarah didn't wake her. Let her have peace while it lasted. She stepped outside. Dawn was breaking cold and clear. Colt stood with Joseph and 3 other Cheyenne men bent over something on the ground. A map, she realized as she approached. "Here," Colt was saying, pointing. "That's where he keeps the land deeds. The ones he forged. The ones that prove he's been stealing property for years." Joseph studied the map. His ranch house, heavily guarded. "Always. But I know the layout. Worked there 2 years before Jacob hired me." Colt looked up, saw Sarah. Something flickered in his eyes. "You should be resting." "I've rested enough." She moved closer. "What's the plan?" "The plan is, you stay here where it's safe while I—" "No." Sarah's voice was flat. Final. "Whatever you're planning, I'm part of it." "Sarah, this is dangerous. Everything is dangerous. Being here is dangerous. Breathing is dangerous." She crossed her arms. "I'm done hiding while other people fight my battles, so tell me the plan, or I'll make my own." Colt studied her, then nodded slowly. "All right. But you listen, and you listen good. What I'm proposing could get us all killed. I'm listening." He turned back to the map. "Dalton keeps documents in a safe in his study. Deeds, contracts, evidence of every dirty deal he's made. Jacob figured that out 2 years ago, started gathering his own proof to counter it. Witnesses, records, testimony from men Dalton cheated." "Where's Jacob's evidence?" Sarah asked. "Hidden. In a place only I know, but it's not enough by itself. We need Dalton's documents too, the originals. With both sets of evidence, we can take him down legal. Get the territorial governor involved, maybe even federal marshals." Joseph made a sound. "You trust white man's law?" "No, but I trust public pressure. Get enough important people asking questions, even Dalton can't buy his way out." Colt's finger traced a path on the map. "So we break into his ranch, get the documents, get out clean." "That's suicide," one of the Cheyenne men said. 20 guards, dogs, locked doors." "I know. That's why we need a distraction." Colt looked at Joseph. "How many men can you spare?" Joseph's eyes narrowed. "For what?" "A raid. Not a real one. Just enough noise and chaos to pull Dalton's men away from the main house. 10 minutes. That's all I need. You ask my people to risk themselves for white man's war. I ask your people to help end a man who's been pushing Cheyenne off their hunting grounds for 5 years. Who's stolen water rights that fed your herds? Who's paid corrupt agents to look the other way while your children starved?" Colt's voice was hard. "This isn't just my war, Joseph. It's yours too." Silence. Then Joseph nodded slowly. 10 men. But if this goes wrong, it won't. If it does, the blood is on your hands. I'll live with it." Colt turned to Sarah. "You're not coming on the raid." "Like hell I'm not." "Sarah, listen to me. I need you here. If I don't come back, someone has to know where Jacob's evidence is hidden. Someone has to finish this." His eyes held hers. "That someone is you." "Then tell me where it is. Tell me now and we both go." "I can't. If you're captured, if they torture you, then I'll die before I talk, just like Jacob did." Sarah stepped closer. "You said I changed. You said I got hard. Necessary. So stop treating me like I'm fragile. I'm not. Not anymore." Colt looked at her for a long moment. No, you're not. He glanced at Joseph. Can you spare 2 men instead of 10? For what? To guard Emma while we're gone, to make sure she's safe no matter what happens. Colt's voice was steady. If Sarah's coming, I need to know her sister is protected. Joseph considered. 2 men. The best I have. Thank you. Colt turned back to Sarah. All right, you're in. But you follow orders. No hesitation, no second guessing. I say jump, you jump. I say run, you run. I say shoot. I shoot. Sarah met his eyes. I understand. I hope you do. He rolled up the map. Because what we're about to do, there's no coming back from it. We succeed or we die trying. Those are the only 2 options. Sarah thought of Emma's bruised face, of their burning barn, of Jacob lying somewhere in an unmarked grave. Then we'd better succeed. They spent the day preparing. Colt drew diagrams of Dalton's ranch house, marking doors, windows, guard positions. Joseph's men gathered weapons, horses, supplies. Sarah learned the layout until she could navigate it blind. Emma woke late, disoriented and frightened, until she saw Sarah. Then she clung like a child. Where were you? I woke up and you were gone. I'm here. I'm right here. Sarah held her close. Listen, Colt and I have to leave for a while. But you'll be safe here. Joseph's men will protect you. Emma pulled back. Leave where? To finish what Uncle Jacob started, to end this. By doing what raiding Dalton's ranch, Sarah, that's insane. You'll be killed. Maybe. But if we don't try, we're dead anyway. Slowly. Running forever. Never safe. Never home. Sarah gripped Emma's hands. I need to do this. For Jacob. For us. For every person Dalton's hurt and will hurt if someone doesn't stop him. Then I'm coming too. No. You're staying here where it's safe. Safe nowhere is safe. You said so yourself. Emma's voice rose. If you're going, I'm going. We're twins. We face things together. Not this time. Sarah's voice was gentle, but firm. This time I need you alive. I need you here. Because if something goes wrong, if I don't come back, you're the one who finishes this. You're the one who tells the world what Dalton did. Can you do that for me? Emma's eyes filled with tears. I don't want to lose you. You won't. I promise. Sarah pulled her close again. I've gotten hard, Emma. Strong. You don't need to worry about me anymore. I'll always worry. That's what sisters do. They held each other until Joseph called that it was time. Sarah found Colt checking his weapons. 6 guns, 2 knives, a coil of rope. He looked like death preparing to work. Ready? He asked without looking up. No, but I'm going anyway. He smiled slightly. That's the right answer. He handed her a revolver. This one's yours now. Keep it close. Keep it loaded. And Sarah, if it comes down to shooting Dalton or letting him escape, I'll shoot him. Good. He met her eyes. I need to tell you something. Before we go. In case. Don't say it. Don't say in case we don't come back. We might not. And if that happens, you need to know. He hesitated. Unusual for him. Your uncle saved my life, but you're the reason I stayed. After Jacob died, I could have left, should have left. But then you and Emma showed up and something... He stopped. Started again. You're brave in ways most men aren't. You see things clear. You don't flinch from hard truths. That's rare. That's... Colt. Sarah touched his arm. Tell me when we get back. When this is over. When we're safe. Tell me then. He looked at her hand on his arm. Then nodded. When we get back. They rode out at dusk. Colt, Sarah, and 8 Cheyenne warriors. Silent as ghosts through the gathering dark. The miles passed quick. Too quick. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. Her hands were steady on the reins, but her mind screamed warnings. This was crazy. Suicidal. They'd all die. But she kept riding. They stopped 2 miles from Dalton's ranch. Colt gathered them close. Joseph's men hit the northern pastures, make noise, start fires, make Dalton think it's a real raid. When his men respond, Sarah and I go in the back way. We've got maybe 15 minutes before they realize it's a diversion. That's all we need. One of the Cheyenne spoke. And if you're caught, then you ride hard back to the reservation. Protect Emma. Tell her where Jacob's evidence is hidden. Colt's voice was steady. She finishes what we started. Where is it hidden? Sarah knows. I told her on the ride. He looked at her, met her eyes. She nodded slightly. It was a lie. He hadn't told her. Was protecting her even now. If she was caught, she couldn't reveal what she didn't know. Damn him. And bless him. They split up. The Cheyenne rode north. Colt and Sarah circled south. Through arroyos and dry creek beds, using the land itself as cover. Dalton's ranch appeared, lit up like a celebration. Men moving around, drinking, laughing. They thought they'd won. Wait here, Colt whispered. Sarah grabbed his arm. Together, we said together. He started to argue, stopped. Together. They moved forward on foot, slow, careful, every sense straining. The first explosion lit up the northern sky. Then gunfire, shouting. The Cheyenne had begun. Dalton's men boiled out of the buildings like angry hornets, mounting horses, grabbing weapons, riding hard toward the noise. Now, Colt hissed. They ran, low and fast, across open ground to the main house. Colt tried a window, locked, moved to the next, also locked. Back door, he muttered. They circled around. Colt tested the door. It opened. He froze. Drew his gun. Trap, Sarah whispered. Maybe, or luck. He slipped inside. Sarah followed. The house was dim, empty. Everyone had responded to the raid. Colt moved like a cat through the rooms. Sarah stayed close, her own gun drawn. They reached the study. Colt knelt by the safe, pressed his ear against it, started working the dial. Can you open it? Sarah asked. Jacob taught me. Said I might need to someday. Guess he was right. The dial clicked, turned, clicked again. Got it. The safe swung open. Inside stacks of documents, deeds, contracts, letters, evidence of years of corruption. Take everything, Colt said. Fast. Sarah grabbed papers, stuffing them into the bag they'd brought. Her hands shook, but kept moving. So much evidence, so much proof. Footsteps. In the hall. They both froze. Brennan, I know you're in there. Dalton's voice, calm, almost amused. Colt's gun came up. He positioned himself between Sarah and the door. You're smarter than I gave you credit for, Dalton continued. Using the savages as a distraction. Almost worked too, but I left men behind, just in case. We've got your documents, Dalton, Colt called back. Everything. The forged deeds, the bribes, all of it. Had my documents, past tense. The door opened. Dalton stood there flanked by 4 armed men, all guns pointed. Drop your weapons or I'll have my men shoot the girl first. Let her die slow while you watch. Colt's jaw clenched. His gun stayed up. Don't, Sarah whispered. Don't give in. Not for me. I'm not losing you, Colt said quietly. Then louder to Dalton. Let her walk out. She goes free. Then I'll drop my gun. No deal. You both drop your guns now or you both die now. Dalton's smile was cold. Your choice, Brennan. But choose fast. My men get twitchy when they're nervous. Sarah looked at Colt's face, saw the calculation there, the desperate search for options. She knew what she had to do. All right, she said, loud, clear. We'll drop them. Sarah, no, She set her gun on the floor, raised her hands. There. See, we're cooperating. Colt cursed. But he lowered his gun too. Not dropped, but lowered. Dalton's men moved in. One grabbed. Sarah yanked her arms behind her back. She bit back a cry. "The documents," Dalton said. "Hand them over." The man holding Sarah reached for the bag. Sarah's mind raced. They couldn't lose the evidence. Without it, they had nothing. Jacob had died for nothing. She made her decision. Sarah threw herself backwards, slamming into her captor. He stumbled. For 1 second, his grip loosened. 1 second was enough. Colt moved. Faster than thought. His gun came up. Fired. One of Dalton's men dropped. Then chaos. Sarah broke free Dove for her gun. Rolled. Came up shooting. Missed. Fired again. Hit. A man screamed. Colt was a blur of motion. 2 more shots. 2 more bodies falling. Dalton dove behind his desk. The last guard fired. The bullet took Colt in the shoulder, spinning him around. "No!" Sarah's scream ripped from her throat. Colt dropped to one knee. Blood spread across his shirt, but his gun stayed level. "Run!" he gasped. "Sarah, run!" The guard aimed at her. She saw his finger tighten on the trigger. She fired first. The guard went down. For a moment, silence. Just breathing. Just the ringing in Sarah's ears. Then Dalton stood up from behind the desk. He held a gun, pointed at Colt's head. "Enough," he said. "Enough killing. Miss Mitchell, drop your weapon, or I'll splatter Brennan's brains across my floor." Sarah's gun was empty. She'd used all 6 bullets, but Dalton didn't know that. "You first," she said, voice steady. "You drop yours, or I'll put a bullet between your eyes." Dalton studied her. "You're bluffing." "Am I? You willing to bet your life on that?" They stared at each other, neither moving, neither blinking. Colt shifted, his hand moving slowly toward his boot, toward the knife hidden there. "Don't," Dalton said without looking away from Sarah. "Don't even try it, Brennan. I'll kill you before your hand reaches the blade." "Then we're at an impasse," Sarah said. "Neither of us can move without dying. So what now?" "Now?" Dalton's smile returned, cold, confident. "Now my men come back from chasing ghosts. They'll be here in minutes. When they arrive, you'll both die slow. I'll make sure of it. Personally." Sarah's mind raced. He was right. They were trapped, out of bullets, out of time, out of options, but not out of will. "The documents," she said suddenly. "They're not here. You think we'd be stupid enough to bring them with us?" Dalton's eyes narrowed. "You're lying." "Am I? Check the bag. Go ahead." Dalton hesitated, then gestured with his gun. "You. Bring me the bag. Slowly." Sarah picked up the bag, walked toward him, heart hammering. 3 steps. 4. She threw the bag in his face. Dalton flinched. Just a second. Just reflex. Colt's knife flew, buried itself in Dalton's gun arm. Dalton screamed, dropped the gun. Sarah kicked it away, grabbed Colt's fallen revolver, pointed it at Dalton's head. "Don't move," she said. "Don't even breathe wrong." Colt struggled to his feet, blood streaming from his shoulder. "We need to go, now, before his men return. I can't carry you and the documents." "Then leave me. Take the evidence. Finish this." "No." Sarah's voice was iron. "We came together. We leave together." Dalton laughed, bitter, pained. "You're both dead. You just don't know it yet." "Maybe," Sarah said. "But we're taking you with us." She grabbed Dalton's collar, pressed the gun to his temple. "Move. You're our shield now. Any of your men shoot you, die first." They stumbled out of the house, Colt leaning on Sarah, Dalton forced ahead of them. The documents clutched in Sarah's free hand. Outside chaos, fires burning, men shouting. The Cheyenne had done their work well. Horses, They needed horses. There, Colt gasped. 3 animals still tied at the rail. Spooked but not gone. They reached them. Sarah forced Dalton onto one horse, tied his hands to the saddle horn, helped Colt onto another, mounted the third herself. "Ride," Colt said. "Don't stop. Don't look back." They rode, through smoke and confusion, past men too busy fighting fires to notice 3 riders escaping, out into the night, into darkness and blessed emptiness. Behind them someone shouted. Gunfire, but distant, falling away. They rode until the horses were foam-flecked and heaving, until Colt nearly fell from his saddle, until Sarah's arms felt like they'd tear from her shoulders. Finally they stopped. A dry creek bed, cover from rocks and scrub. Sarah helped Colt down. He collapsed against a boulder, face gray. "Let me see," she said. The wound was bad, through and through, which was good, but bleeding heavy, which wasn't. She tore strips from her shirt, bound it tight. Colt hissed between his teeth, but didn't cry out. "You're going to be okay," she said. "Lying to me or yourself? Both, maybe." She looked at Dalton, slumped in his saddle, hands still bound. "What do we do with him?" "Deliver him to the territorial governor, along with the evidence. Let justice work for once." Colt's eyes were heavy. "Sarah, if I don't make it..." "You're making it. I didn't go through all this to watch you die now. Just in case. Jacob's evidence. It's hidden in..." He told her, a place so obvious she'd never have thought to look. "You get it. You combine it with Dalton's documents. You bring down his whole empire. We'll do it together. Sarah, together." She gripped his hand. "You hear me, Colt Brennan? You don't get to die. Not after everything. Not before you tell me what you were trying to say before we left." He smiled weakly. "Stubborn woman. You have no idea." They rested until dawn, then rode again, slower now. Colt fading in and out. Sarah holding him in the saddle when he swayed. Dalton silent and sullen, knowing his reign was over. The reservation appeared on the horizon. Sarah had never seen anything so beautiful. Joseph met them at the entrance, took one look at Colt and shouted orders. Men appeared, carried Colt inside. A medicine woman began working on him immediately. Emma ran out, threw her arms around Sarah. Thank God you're alive." "Barely." Sarah held her close. "But we did it. We got the evidence. We got Dalton. It's over." Emma pulled back. "Colt." "Fighting, like always." Sarah looked toward the lodge where they'd taken him. "He's strong. He'll make it." She hoped she wasn't lying. They secured Dalton in a storage lodge, 2 guards watching him every moment. Then Sarah went to check on Colt. He was unconscious. The medicine woman worked over him, chanting softly. The wound was cleaned, stitched, packed with herbs. "Will he live?" Sarah asked. The woman didn't look up. "That's up to him now, and the spirits. All I can do is keep the wound clean and the fever down." Sarah sat beside him, took his hand. It was cold. "Listen to me, you stubborn man," she whispered. "You made me promise to finish this if you didn't make it. Well, I'm not doing it alone. So you fight. You hear me. You fight like you've been fighting for us this whole time. You don't get to give up now. We need you. I need you." His hand twitched in hers, just barely, but it was something. For 3 days, Colt burned with fever. For 3 days, Sarah barely left his side. Emma brought food she didn't eat. Water she sipped without tasting. The medicine woman changed dressings and muttered prayers. On the 4th day, the fever broke. Colt's eyes opened, focused on Sarah's face. "You're still here," he said, voice like gravel. "Where else would I be? Getting on with your life, now that I'm not there to order you around." She smiled through tears. "Someone's got to make sure you don't die of stubbornness." "How long?" 4 days. You've been fighting hard." "Did we..." He tried to sit up, gasped, fell back. "The evidence. Dalton. Safe. Both. We've got him secured and the documents protected. Joseph's sending a rider to the territorial capital tomorrow. We're going to bury Dalton legally. Sarah gripped his hand. You did it, Colt. We did it. He stared at the ceiling. Then his eyes found hers again. What I was trying to tell you, before the raid. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Because I almost died without saying it, and that's not... He stopped. Took a breath. When your uncle saved my life, I was nothing. Angry. Violent. Headed for the gallows. He saw something in me worth saving. Gave me purpose. A place. For 5 years I worked to be worth that faith. His grip tightened on her hand. Then you showed up. Stubborn. Fearless. Refusing to run even when you should. And I realized I'd been living for the wrong reason. Not to honor the past, but to build a future. With you. If you'll have me. Sarah's breath caught. Colt. I know I'm not much. Scarred. Violent past. No money. No prospects except whatever you choose to give me. But I swear on Jacob's grave, I'll spend every day earning the right to stand beside you, if you'll let me. She leaned down, kissed him, gentle, careful of his injuries. You already earned it, she whispered against his lips. The moment you refused to let me face this alone. When she pulled back, he was smiling. Really smiling. Like the weight of years had lifted. So, is that a yes? That's a yes, when you're healed. When this is over. When we're standing on our land again free and clear. Ask me proper, and I'll say yes proper. Deal. Outside, Emma was crying. Happy tears. Joseph smiled his quiet smile. And in the storage lodge, Marcus Dalton sat in darkness. His empire crumbling. His future measured in years behind bars. The war was over. The Mitchell women had won. The rider left at dawn, carrying documents that would destroy Marcus Dalton's empire. Sarah watched him disappear into the horizon, feeling something heavy lift from her chest. Emma appeared beside her wrapped in a blanket against the morning chill. It's really over, isn't it? Almost. The territorial governor still has to act. Dalton still has friends in high places. Money buys loyalty, even when the proof is damning. Sarah turned to face her sister. But yes, the worst is over. We survived. More than survived. Emma's voice was quiet, wondering. We won. Against impossible odds. Against a man who owned half of Wyoming. We actually won. Sarah thought about the burning barn. The gunfight. Colt bleeding in the saddle. The terror of thinking she'd lose everything and everyone. We paid for it, though. Paid in blood and fear and everything we thought we knew about ourselves. Was it worth it? Sarah didn't answer right away. She looked back toward the lodge, where Colt was sleeping finally peaceful after days of fever dreams. Thought about their ranch still standing somewhere beyond these walls. Thought about Jacob's grave and the promise she'd made to honor his legacy. Yes, she said finally. It was worth it. They stood together in silence, watching the sun climb. Two Boston schoolteachers who'd become something harder. Something forged in fire. Something their uncle would have recognized. Joseph approached his footsteps soft on the hard ground. Brennan is asking for you. Both of you. Inside the lodge, Colt sat propped against rolled blankets, his color better, but still pale. The medicine woman had just finished changing his dressing. She nodded at Sarah and Emma, then left them alone. You look terrible, Sarah said, settling beside him. Feel worse, but I'm alive, which is more than I expected a week ago. His eyes moved between them. We need to talk about what comes next. You need to rest, Emma said. That's what comes next. I'll rest when I'm dead. Right now we have decisions to make. Colt winced. The territorial governor will act on our evidence. Dalton's finished. But his men aren't. They're scattered across 3 territories, and they're going to be angry, scared. Desperate men do desperate things. You think they'll come after us? Sarah asked. I think some will run, some will disappear. But a few, the ones Dalton paid best, the ones with nowhere else to go, they'll come looking for revenge. His jaw set. We need to be ready. How do we get ready for that? Emma's voice trembled slightly. We can't fight everyone. We don't have to. Most of Dalton's power came from fear and corruption. Take away the man at the top and the organization crumbles. But those first few weeks... Colt looked at Sarah. Those are going to be dangerous. We need to stay here until I'm healed enough to ride. Then we go back to the ranch with enough men to defend it. Joseph's men? Sarah asked. Some. And the hands we hired before all this started. Dutch Jack Tom Reeves. If they're still alive, if they held the ranch like I told them to, then we've got a fighting force. Small but loyal. And if they didn't hold it? Colt's expression darkened. Then we rebuild. Again. Because that's what Mitchells do. They don't quit. Sarah felt Emma's hand slip into hers. Squeeze tight. They'd come so far from that first night in the storm, terrified and lost. Now they sat planning defense strategies like it was the most natural thing in the world. How long until you can ride? Sarah asked. Week. Maybe 2 if the wound doesn't fester. Colt met her eyes. I know you're anxious to get home, but rushing gets people killed. We do this smart, or we don't do it at all. I can wait. We've waited this long. A few more weeks won't matter. But they did matter. Every day felt like an eternity. Sarah helped the medicine woman tend Colt's wound, learning which herbs fought infection, which ones dulled pain. Emma worked with the Cheyenne women, mending clothes, preparing food, making herself useful. They both learned patience in a way Boston never taught them. On the 5th day, a rider appeared. Not theirs. Someone new. A territorial marshal, wearing an official badge and carrying official papers. Joseph brought him to Sarah. The marshal was young, maybe 30, with honest eyes and a nervous energy that suggested he was new to his position. Miss Mitchell, I'm Marshal James Corrigan. The governor sent me. He dismounted, handed her an envelope. There's been developments you need to know about. Sarah's hands shook as she opened it. Read again. What is it? Emma pressed close, trying to see. Dalton's arrested, formally charged with murder, land fraud, bribery, and about 20 other crimes. Sarah looked up at the marshal. Is this real? It's not some trick. It's real, ma'am. The evidence you provided was overwhelming. The governor had no choice but to act immediately. Dalton's in custody in the territorial capital. He'll stand trial within the month. Corrigan's expression was serious. But there's more. His ranch has been seized as evidence. His accounts frozen. His men are scattering, and some of them are making threats. Against us. Against you specifically, Miss Mitchell. You and your sister and Colt Brennan. The governor is concerned for your safety. He's authorized me to provide protection if you need it. Sarah looked at Emma. At Colt, who'd hobbled out to listen. At Joseph, standing quiet and watchful. We appreciate the offer, Marshal, but we've been protecting ourselves just fine. She straightened her shoulders. What we need is safe passage back to our ranch, and assurance that Dalton's men will be prosecuted if they attack us. Corrigan nodded slowly. The governor anticipated you might say that. He's prepared to station 2 marshals at your property for the next 6 months. Federal law. Anyone attacks you attacks the United States government. That's generous. It's practical. You're the key witnesses in the biggest corruption case this territory has ever seen. Keeping you alive isn't kindness, Miss Mitchell. It's necessity. He smiled slightly. Though between you and me, the governor is impressed. Says any woman who can take down Marcus Dalton deserves all the help the law can provide. Sarah felt something warm in her chest. Pride, maybe. Or vindication. When can we go home? Whenever you're ready. I'll ride with you personally. Make sure you arrive safely." Colt stepped forward, still moving carefully. "Give us a week. I need to be strong enough to defend what's ours if your protection fails." "I don't fail, Mr. Brennan. Everyone fails eventually. I just want to make sure we're not counting on you when it happens." Corrigan studied Colt with new respect. "A week then. I'll wait." The next 7 days passed in a blur of preparation. Colt pushed himself harder than the medicine woman liked practicing with his gun, despite the pain building back strength stolen by fever and blood loss. Sarah and Emma inventoried supplies, planned the journey home, tried not to let hope overwhelm caution. On the 8th day, they rode out. Sarah and Emma Colt still pale but steady. Marshal Corrigan and his deputy, and Joseph with 4 Cheyenne warriors who'd volunteered to see them safely home. The land rolled past familiar and strange at once. Sarah had left here desperate and running. She returned victorious but changed in ways she was still discovering. They crested the final rise, and there it was, the ranch. Still standing. Smoke rose from the chimney. Horses moved in the corrals. And standing on the porch, arms crossed and grinning, was Dutch Carver. "About damn time," Dutch called as they approached. "We've been holding this place against every two-bit rustler and bounty hunter in Wyoming. Thought you'd forgotten about us." Colt swung down from his horse, moving stiff but determined. "The ranch?" "Intact, mostly. Lost some stock to raids, but nothing we couldn't handle. Jack took a bullet in the leg, but he's ornery enough to live through it." Dutch's grin faded as he looked at Colt's bandaged shoulder. "You look like hell, boss." "Feel like it too. But I'm alive. We all are. That's what matters." Sarah dismounted Emma beside her. They stood looking at the house where this all began. The door Uncle Jacob had opened to them. The windows they'd learned to shoot from. The porch where they'd first faced Marcus Dalton. "Welcome home," Emma whispered. Home. Yes, that's what it was now. Not just an inheritance or an obligation. Home. The next weeks settled into a new rhythm. Marshal Corrigan and his deputy took up residence in the bunkhouse, a quiet presence that discouraged trouble. Joseph's warriors stayed a week before returning to the reservation, but they promised to come if called. Dutch and the other hands worked the ranch with renewed purpose, knowing they'd fought for something worth keeping. Colt healed slowly, but surely. Sarah watched him regain his strength, saw the tension leave his shoulders as days passed without attack. Dalton's men had scattered like roaches when the light hit them. A few were arrested. Most just disappeared into the vast emptiness of the West. And gradually, impossibly, life became normal. Sarah learned to run the ranch properly. Not just survive it, but manage it. She studied the books, the breeding records, the water rights that Uncle Jacob had defended. She made decisions about stock and sales and hiring. Emma worked beside her, finding her own strength in the daily rhythms of ranch life. One evening, 6 weeks after their return, Sarah stood on the porch watching the sun set. The land glowed golden, peaceful, beautiful. Hard to believe it had been a battlefield not long ago. Colt appeared beside her. His arm was out of the sling. Finally, his color good, his movements almost back to normal. "Beautiful night," he said. "Every night is beautiful now, compared to what we went through." They stood in comfortable silence. Then Colt cleared his throat. "I've been thinking about what I said. In the lodge. When I was half dead and probably delirious." Sarah's heart jumped. "Oh, I meant it, every word. But I also understand if you've reconsidered. If you want someone less broken, less violent, less—" "Stop." Sarah turned to face him. "Do you remember what I said? When you're healed, when this is over, when we're standing on our land again, ask me proper. Well, you're healed. This is over, and we're home." Colt stared at her. Then slowly, carefully, he lowered himself to one knee. His shoulder was still healing, but he didn't flinch. Just looked up at her with those winter gray eyes that had first terrified her and now held her entire world. "Sarah Mitchell, You're the strongest, bravest, most stubborn woman I've ever known. You took a scared girl from Boston and turned her into a force of nature. You faced down killers and corrupt ranchers and your own fear, and you never quit. Never backed down. Never stopped being exactly who you needed to be. His voice roughened. I'm not much. Scarred. Violent past. No family. No money, except what you choose to pay me. But I love you. I think I've loved you since that first night when you decided to stay instead of run. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life standing beside you, protecting what we've built, raising whatever family we're blessed with? Will you make me the luckiest man in Wyoming? Sarah's vision blurred with tears. Behind her, she heard Emma's soft gasp from the doorway, heard Dutch whooping from the barn, heard her own heart saying yes, yes, yes. Yes, she said out loud. Yes, I'll marry you, on one condition. Colt smiled. Name it. You stop saying you're not much. You're everything. You're the man who kept us alive, who fought for us, who saw past two scared girls to the women we could become. You're the man Jacob trusted with his life, and I trust with mine. So yes, Colt Brennan, I'll marry you. Gladly, proudly, forever. He stood, pulled her into his arms, kissed her like the world was ending and beginning at the same time. Sarah melted into him, into this moment, into the absolute certainty that this was right. This was real. This was worth every terrifying moment that led here. When they finally pulled apart, Emma was crying on the porch. Marshall Corrigan was grinning, and Dutch was already breaking out whiskey to celebrate. They married 3 weeks later under Wyoming's sky so blue it hurt to look at. Joseph performed the ceremony blending Cheyenne traditions with Christian vows in a way that honored both worlds. Emma stood as witness beautiful in a new dress they'd ordered from town. The ranch hands cleaned up respectably, and even Marshall Corrigan wore his best uniform. Sarah wore her mother's wedding dress carefully preserved and brought west in their trunks. As she stood beside Colt, speaking vows about honor and loyalty and love, she thought about her parents, about Uncle Jacob, about everyone who'd shaped her path to this moment. I now pronounce you husband and wife, Joseph said. What the spirits have joined, let no man separate. Colt kissed her, and the assembled crowd cheered. It was small and simple and perfect. The celebration lasted into the night. Someone produced a fiddle. Someone else had a harmonica. They danced in the firelight, ate Dutch's attempts at fancy cooking, and laughed in a way that felt like healing. Emma pulled Sarah aside during a quiet moment. I'm happy for you, truly, but I'm also terrified. Of what? Of being alone. Of you having Colt and me having, Emma's voice caught. Nothing. Sarah took her sister's hands. You're not alone. You'll never be alone. This ranch is as much yours as mine. This family is yours. And Emma. You're stronger than you think. You survived everything I did, faced the same dangers, made the same choices. The only difference is you don't see it yet. I see a woman who's afraid most of the time and pretending she's not. That's called being human. Even Colt is afraid sometimes. He just doesn't let it stop him. Neither did you. That's courage, Emma. Real courage. Sarah squeezed her hands. You're going to find someone. When you're ready. When the right person comes along. And until then you have us. Always. Emma hugged her tight. I love you. I'm so proud of who we've become. Me too. Later, when the guests had drifted away and the fire burned low, Sarah and Colt stood together on the porch. The same porch where she'd first arrived in a storm. Where she'd first seen him silhouetted against firelight. Where everything had begun. What are you thinking? Colt asked, his arm around her shoulders. That I was terrified of you that first night. You seemed so dangerous, so violent, so... I was all those things, still am when necessary. But also gentle, protective, loyal beyond measure. She leaned into him. I'm thinking about Uncle Jacob. How he knew. He saved you. Brought you here. Left us this place knowing you'd protect us. It's like he planned it all. Maybe he did. Jacob was smart like that. Saw things others didn't. Colt's voice was soft. He told me once that the hardest steel is forged in the hottest fire. That suffering either breaks you or makes you unbreakable. He said I'd been through enough fire to be unbreakable if I chose to be. And did you choose? Every day. And I'll keep choosing. For you. For us. For whatever comes next. He turned to face her. Sarah Brennan. Sounds right, doesn't it? Sounds perfect. She kissed him. Soft. Sweet. Full of promise. Take me inside, husband. Show me this new life we're building. He did. And in the morning they woke to sunlight streaming through windows and the sound of ranch life beginning. Emma was already up working with the hands. Marshal Corrigan was checking perimeter. Dutch was burning breakfast in the kitchen. Normal, chaotic, beautiful. Sarah, dressed quickly, joined Emma in the yard. Together they walked the property their uncle had died defending. The land they'd nearly lost. The home they'd fought to keep. I had a letter yesterday, Emma said suddenly. From the territorial governor. He wants us to testify at Dalton's trial next month. Both of us. Both of us. He says our testimony is crucial. That Dalton's lawyers are trying to paint him as a victim of circumstance. We need to tell the truth about what he did, who he was, how he terrorized people for years. Sarah thought about standing in a courtroom facing the man who'd tried to destroy them. Thought about speaking publicly about violence and fear and survival. Part of her wanted to refuse, to let the evidence speak for itself. But that was the old Sarah, the scared girl from Boston. We'll go, she said. We'll tell our story, and we'll watch him pay for what he did. The trial was everything Sarah expected, and worse. Dalton's lawyers were expensive and aggressive, trying to discredit her and Emma as opportunistic outsiders who'd fabricated evidence. But Sarah stood firm in the witness box, recounting every threat, every attack, every moment of terror. Emma did the same, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. Colt testified about Jacob's murder, about the evidence he had gathered, about watching a good man die defending his land. Marshal Corrigan presented the documents they'd stolen from Dalton's safe, the forged deeds, the bribed officials, the years of corruption laid bare. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty. On all counts. Marcus Dalton stood as the judge read the sentence. 20 years in territorial prison, all assets seized, all land returned to rightful owners. As marshals led him away, Dalton's eyes found Sarah in the gallery. No anger there, no hatred, just emptiness. A man who'd lost everything and finally understood what that meant. Sarah felt no satisfaction, no triumph, just relief that it was finally truly over. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed them. Questions about heroism and courage and what it meant to be women in the West. Sarah answered briefly, deflected most of it to Emma, then escaped with Colt back to their hotel. That was exhausting, she said, collapsing on the bed. But necessary. Now everyone knows what Dalton was, what he did. He can't hide anymore, can't pretend to be respectable. Colt sat beside her. You were magnificent up there, strong, clear, unshakable. I didn't feel unshakable. I felt like I was going to be sick the whole time. That's the difference between you and Dalton. He felt nothing. You feel everything, but do what needs doing anyway. That's real strength. They stayed in town for another week, handling legal matters, signing documents that formally restored their ranch and removed any cloud of ownership. Then they rode home, ready to start the next chapter. Months passed. The ranch thrived under their management. They hired more hands, good men recommended by Joseph. They rebuilt what had burned, improved, what remained expanded where it made sense. Sarah discovered she had a gift for business, negotiating fair prices and building relationships with buyers. Emma found her own path, developing a school on the property for ranch children who had nowhere else to learn. She taught reading and arithmetic and history, passing on the education they'd both worked so hard to acquire. And one spring morning, Sarah woke feeling different. Strange. She lay there trying to identify the sensation. Then she knew. "Colt," she whispered, shaking him awake. "Colt, I think I'm pregnant." His eyes opened, focused. "Are you sure?" "Not completely. But I've been tired, nauseous in the mornings, and I'm late, very late." He sat up, pulled her into his arms. "A baby. Our baby." "Are you happy?" "Happy, Sarah." "I'm—" His voice broke. "I never thought I'd have this. A wife, a home, a family. I was supposed to hang. Remember, your uncle saved me from the gallows, and you gave me a reason to live. And now—" He pressed his hand to her stomach. "Now we're creating new life, new hope, new reasons to keep fighting for what's right." Sarah felt tears on her cheeks. Uncle Jacob would be so proud. He would. Of both of us, of everything we've built. The baby came that winter. A girl with Sarah's dark hair and Colt's gray eyes. They named her Hope. Hope Mitchell Brennan. A promise to the future. Emma was the first to hold her niece, tears streaming down her face. "She's perfect. Absolutely perfect." "She is," Sarah agreed. "And she'll grow up free, safe, knowing that her mother and aunt fought for her right to exist in peace, that her father protected what was theirs, that her great-uncle built something worth defending." "What will you tell her?" Emma asked. "When she's old enough to understand about Dalton, about the violence, about everything we did." Sarah looked down at her daughter's sleeping face. "I'll tell her the truth, that evil exists, but so does courage. That sometimes you have to fight for what's right, even when you're scared. That strength isn't about never being afraid, it's about acting despite fear." She smiled. "And I'll tell her that her family never quits, never surrenders, never stops believing that tomorrow can be better than today." Years passed. Hope grew strong and fearless riding before she could properly walk. Emma eventually married one of Joseph's nephews, a quiet man who loved her gentle spirit and helped her run the school that now taught dozens of children. Colt aged gracefully, his hair going silver, but his eyes staying sharp, watching over the land he'd once fought to protect. Sarah managed the ranch with skill that became legendary across Wyoming. Other ranchers sought her advice. The territorial governor appointed her to advisory boards. She became the voice of fairness and justice in a territory still finding its identity. But she never forgot that first night. The storm, the fear, the choice to stay instead of run. On the 20th anniversary of that night, Sarah stood on the same porch where she'd first arrived. The ranch had tripled in size. The house had been expanded. A whole community had grown up around them. Colt appeared beside her, moving slower now, but still solid, still her anchor. "What are you thinking?" he asked. The same question he'd asked 1,000 times. "That I was terrified of you that night. That I almost ran. That everything good in my life came from the choice to stay." She took his hand. That Uncle Jacob's greatest gift wasn't the land. It was bringing us together, giving us a chance to become who we were meant to be. And who were we meant to be? Sarah looked out at the land glowing in sunset light, at the cattle grazing peacefully, at Hope riding in with her cousins laughing and free, at Emma standing with her husband watching their own children play. "Survivors," she said finally. "Fighters, builders of something that lasts. Mitchell women don't quit, don't bend, don't break. We burn. And from those ashes we create something new, something stronger, something worth passing to the next generation." Colt pulled her close. "I love you, Sarah Brennan. Every stubborn, fierce, unbreakable piece of you. I love you too. Thank you for keeping me alive long enough to find out who I really was. That was always you. I just held the door open while you walked through." They stood together as darkness fell, watching their world settle into peace. The war was long over. Dalton had died in prison 5 years ago. The threats had faded into memory, but the lessons remained. Fight for what's yours. Protect who you love. Never surrender to fear. Build something worth defending. Pass it forward. Those were the truths Sarah would teach her daughter and granddaughters. The legacy Jacob had started, and she had forged in blood and fire, and absolute refusal to be defeated. She was a Mitchell woman. She'd survived when survival seemed impossible. She'd loved when love seemed dangerous. She'd built when everything was ashes, and she'd done it all without compromising who she was meant to be. That was victory. Not the defeat of an enemy, but the discovery of herself. Strong, capable, unbreakable. Sarah Mitchell Brennan. Wife, mother, rancher, survivor, fighter. She'd taken everything the West could throw at her and emerged not just intact, but transformed into something no one, not even herself, had imagined possible. And on that porch in that moment, with Colt's arm around her and her family safe and her land secure, Sarah finally understood what Uncle Jacob had known all along. Real strength isn't about never falling, it's about rising every time you do, and teaching others to do the same.